At a bus station, late at night. The place is almost empty, the lights flicker, there's a constant hum from the air conditioning, and everything just feels off. Asterisk, what would you do if you stumbled upon something unthinkable? Stay tuned to African Legacy Tales to find out. Asterisk, then you hear it, a sound so faint it almost doesn't feel real, a baby crying, a baby alone. Let me ask you this, how many times have you heard stories about abandoned children? Maybe you've seen reports of a baby found in a shopping bag, left in a park, or even outside a hospital. But now, imagine, what if you were the one who found that baby? Would you walk away, call the authorities, or would you do something unthinkable, something that could change your life forever? This is where Mary's story takes a shocking turn. Keep listening to African Legacy Tales to uncover the chilling truth. That's exactly how Mary's story begins. She was just an ordinary girl with a complicated life, trying to catch the right bus, but a mistake or maybe fate put a baby in her arms, a baby that shouldn't have been there, alone, vulnerable, with a note that simply said, "Please help." But what would you do if you found out that baby wasn't just abandoned? What if there were more, dark secrets, a dangerous network, and people willing to do anything to silence you? And worse, what if your decision put lives at risk, including your own? Where are you listening to this story right now? In your car, at home, with headphones on the subway? Let me know where you're tuning in from, your city, your country. Leave it in the comments, I'd love to know. And as you think about that, I want you to imagine you are in Mary's shoes. Hold tight, because what started with a faint cry on a silent night is about to spiral into a series of events that expose something much bigger, a truth no one wants you to know. Stay with me until the end of this story on African Legacy Tales. You won't believe how it ends. Darkness loomed over the bus terminal when Mary Martin realized her mistake. Her trembling hands held a ticket to Corta when she should have been on her way to Rosario. At 17, this was her first solo trip, a desperate attempt to reach the hospital where her grandmother had been admitted in an emergency. The terminal's clock read 11:42 p.m., and the next bus to Rosario wouldn't leave until 6 a.m. Mary sank onto one of the few remaining empty benches as the flickering fluorescent lights overhead cast unsettling shadows in the nearly deserted station. It was then that she heard it, a faint cry, barely audible over the hum of the air conditioning. At first, she thought it was her imagination, fatigue playing tricks on her after a long day. But the sound persisted, a soft lament that seemed to come from the luggage area. Mary stood up, adjusting her worn backpack over her shoulder. Her scuffed sneakers made no sound against the tiled floor as she approached the source of the noise. Behind a pile of abandoned suitcases, partially hidden by a dirty blanket, she found something that chilled her blood, a baby, no more than 3 months old, completely alone. "Hello?" Mary called, looking around frantically. "Is anyone here?" Her voice echoed in the empty space, met only by the echo and the baby's ongoing cries. The little one was dressed in a clean but worn light blue onesie. Next to him was a wrinkled note, scrawled on a crumpled piece of paper, "I'm sorry, I can't anymore. Please help him." Mary felt her heart lurch. With trembling hands, she picked up the baby. He was warm, too warm. "He has a fever," she murmured to herself as the little one snuggled against her chest, his cries subsiding into a soft whimper. Just then, the sound of approaching footsteps made her turn sharply. A man in a terminal security uniform appeared in her line of sight, his flashlight casting ominous shadows on the walls. "What are you doing here?" the guard asked, his rough voice resonating in the empty space. "This area is restricted." Mary looked at the baby in her arms, then at the guard, and made a decision that would change her life forever. She couldn't just hand over the little one and hope the system would take care of him, not after seeing so many cases of lost children in the system, like her cousin Miguel, who had bounced from home to home until it was too late to save him. "He's my brother," she lied, her voice steadier than she felt. "He was waiting for me with my aunt, but she had an emergency and had to leave." I missed the bus. The guard squinted, his flashlight moving between Mary and the baby. Do you have any ID, any documents for the child? They're in my backpack, Mary replied, her mind racing frantically, but the little one has a fever, sir. I need to get him to a doctor first, please. What Mary didn't know at that moment was that her impulsive decision was pulling her into a web of secrets far darker and more complicated than she could imagine. The baby in her arms was not just a case of abandonment, and the crumpled note in her pocket contained more than the desperate words of a troubled mother. The night was just beginning, and with it, a chain of events that would test not only her courage but also her ability to distinguish between what was right and what was necessary, between truth and the lies we sometimes tell ourselves to survive. The security guard finally lowered his flashlight, his face softening slightly at the baby's weak cries. There's a clinic 3 blocks away, he said, pointing toward the terminal's south exit. I would escort you, but I can't leave my post. Mary nodded, clutching the little one tightly against her chest as she hurried out of the terminal. The night was cold, and a light drizzle began to fall on the deserted streets. Her footsteps echoed on the wet pavement as she desperately searched for the clinic. As she walked, she slipped her hand into the pocket where she had stored the note. That was when she noticed something she had overlooked in her initial panic. There was more text on the back of the paper. Under the glow of a street lamp, she unfolded the note with a trembling hand. To whoever finds my baby, his name is Josh, he is 2.5 months old. This is not abandonment, it is protection. If you are reading this, I am probably already dead. Look for Dr. Garcia at Santa Denise Hospital, he will understand. Trust no one else. Mary's heart raced. Dead? Protection? The words danced in her mind as she finally spotted the glowing sign for Clinica Saner. It was a small, old building, but the lights on indicated that it was open. The receptionist, an older woman with a tired expression, looked up when Mary stumbled in with the baby in her arms. My brother, Mary stammered, repeating the lie that was already beginning to feel like a second skin. He has a very high fever. The woman immediately stood, calling for a doctor over the intercom. Minutes later, Mary found herself in a small examination room, anxiously watching as a young doctor examined the baby. He has a 39.5 fever, the doctor murmured, frowning, and these bruises on his arms. Bruises? Mary stepped closer, noticing for the first time the dark marks on the baby's tiny arms. They weren't normal bruises, they looked like needle marks. How long has he been like this? The doctor asked, his eyes studying Mary with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. I don't know exactly, she replied, her mind racing. My aunt was taking care of him. She had an emergency, and the parents, they're away. The lie felt bitter in her mouth, but she couldn't back down now. The doctor stared at her for a moment before turning his attention back to the baby. He will need antibiotics and observation. I'm going to admit him. No. The word escaped Mary's lips before she could stop it. The doctor looked at her in surprise. I mean, can't you give him something and let us take him home? My aunt, she'll be back soon. Miss, the doctor removed his glasses, cleaning them slowly, these bruises. I need to ask some questions, and I need to see the child's documents. Mary felt panic beginning to seize her. At that moment, the baby started crying again, and she instinctively took him in her arms. To her surprise, he immediately calmed down, snuggling against her chest. I'll prepare the paperwork for his admission, the doctor said, heading toward the door. Don't move from here. As soon as the doctor left, Mary knew she couldn't stay. The note in her pocket felt like lead, Santa Denise Hospital, Dr. Garcia. The baby's mother had been specific, trust no one else. With her heart pounding wildly, Mary wrapped the baby in her own jacket and peeked out into the hallway. The receptionist was on the